Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. How are you guys doing today? It is Wendy, your Divorced Woman's Guide. And as a reminder, don't forget to hit subscribe and give me a 5-star rating so that more people can hear about my podcast. And if you are not in my Facebook group yet, the Divorce Rehab with Wendy, please check it out. Feel free to join. In fact, I've got a free event that I am hosting the week of June 12th that you guys are going to want to register for. So you can get that information either on my website or you can receive it from my Facebook group posts where there is a link in there for you guys to register. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that has been coming up a lot in conversations that I have been having both with clients as well as within the divorced women's community. And that actually has to do with anger. And so what I want to go through in today's episode are 10 signs that you may still be stuck in your anger as it relates to your divorce. So it's one of those episodes that I think you're going to want to pay extra attention to, maybe even grab a piece of paper and a pen to write some of this stuff down. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. These are in no particular order whatsoever. They're just 10 signs that I have recognized recently. So sign number 1 is if you find yourself still having that lingering resentment. So this is going to be if you're somebody who is continuing to hold on to those feelings of bitterness and anger and resentment towards your ex, or even perhaps circumstances surrounding your divorce. And I knew that this was something that I was holding on to throughout my divorce process, because I actually could feel it in my body. I could feel this like deep, just like this, it was like this heaviness within me. And I actually felt it in my throat. And it was a place that I would start recognizing anytime I knew I was getting into that dark place again, and realize that I was also not necessarily making the best decisions for myself from that place. So I invite you to do a check-in for yourself as well and see if that is something that you are still experiencing. Okay, sign number 2 is if you are still in the pointing finger, or as I like to call it, the blame game. So if you are frequently blaming your ex for everything that went wrong, either in your relationship or in your post-divorce life, or maybe even as you guys are in the thick of your divorce right now, if you are constantly pointing the finger, oh, well, they're doing this, or they said that, what that tells me is that you are giving them all of your power. You are expelling all of this negative energy, thinking that they're going to feel it. But I hate to break it to you guys, they're not. All you're doing is, as I've said this before, you're drinking the poison, expecting the other person to die. And the person who's actually dying is you. So pay attention to whether or not you are in that blame game place, because if you are, you're still very angry. Okay. Sign number 3 is if you are avoiding the healing process of your emotion. So you're avoiding feeling anything. So these are going to be, this is going to be if you're somebody who hasn't necessarily taken any steps, or even the ones in the right order to process your emotions, or maybe you're somebody who, when you start to feel, you shut it down or you try to numb yourself. And so you're not actually healing the pain that is being caused by what it is that you're experiencing. And what I always say is that you've got to feel through the emotion in order for you to not only get to the other side, but actually that is the shortcut, is feeling through the pain. So number 4 is if you are still struggling to let go. Now, let me explain this, because you may be like, oh, I've let go, but hold a second here. So if you're somebody who is struggling to let go, to me, that means that you are still stuck in a place of focusing on negativity. So you're having negative thoughts, limiting beliefs. You are holding grudges, or you are trying to, go back to all of those like bad memories that you are just still like gripping onto. You are allowing yourself to stay angry. You're choosing to remember what wasn't good. And I know sometimes we think that that's the better way, that that'll help us get over it, but actually it's not. If anything, it's evidence as to why your marriage fell apart. And instead of focusing on the negative, you get to shift and start focusing on the positive, and that's what will get you unstuck. Okay, number 5 is if you find yourself easily triggered or in a state of heightened hostility. So this is going to be if you're somebody who is showing frequent or random outbursts of anger. Sometimes this can lead to conflict. Sometimes this leads to having strained relationships, sometimes with your kids. I don't know about you guys, but so often, unfortunately, my kids would sometimes be the recipient of my hostility that would still be lingering. And I would always apologize. I always owned up to my words and my communication and my feelings. And so I invite you to think if, that is something that you are currently experiencing, because that also means that you're still staying stuck and in a place of anger. Okay. Sign number 6 is if you are, now this is a little bit different than what I talked about in number 4, but this is if you're still engaging in negative self-talk of yourself. So this is where you might be in total judgment, constantly blaming yourself, or you are feeling unworthy, you have low self-confidence, you lack worth, you lack self-esteem, because you're basically allowing your divorce to define you. So if you are staying in that negative self-talk space, then you too are still in a place of anger. Sign number 7 is if you are still unable to trust. So if you are somebody who is at a place right now where you're still finding it hard to trust other people, or even if you're on the other side and you are ready to date and you're having trouble dating new people or entering into new relationships because you are just so terrified of being hurt again, you are definitely somebody who is still not healed. And I would honestly tell you that you're not in a place to be dating either, because there's still going to be sort of kind of like a shadow hanging over that relationship. And you want to be sure that you're putting your best foot forward and that you are entering into a new relationship with a clean slate. Okay, sign number 8 is if you feel stagnant in your life. So this is going to be for those of you who just feel like you can't move forward. You're still like in the quicksand of your divorce, unable to really allow yourself to experience new opportunities or experiences. So this is really when you are just choosing alone instead of putting yourself out there and really trying to do something with your time. Now, I remember the first couple of times that I didn't have my kids, and I went from being like full-time mom, doing everything, to 50% custody. And it was so incredibly hard. And I remember crying and, laying on the couch or, pouring myself a glass of wine, eating chocolate, whatever it was, just wallowing in my own self-pity. And that definitely was a time where I was very much still angry, but also just refusing to move forward. It was almost like I expected somebody to pick me up off the ground, but the only person that can do that is you. Sign number 9 is if, similar to that, if you are withdrawing emotionally. So you're isolating yourself from social activities. So even if you are being invited out, that you're choosing not to go, or maybe you're avoiding interactions that might be triggersome, or crowds of people. So I know that I got to a point where I just didn't want to go out because I was tired of the questions. I was tired of people asking me how I was, because honestly, I was tired of lying to them and saying I'm fine when I was miserable. And at that particular time, I was also in a place where I didn't really know how to express my emotions. And I wanted people to think that I was strong and doing okay. And so when you find yourself in that place, that means that there is still some underlying emotion that you haven't processed yet. And then finally, the last sign is if you are stagnant in your personal growth. So you are not moving forward. You are not allowing this experience to open your eyes to ways in which you get to improve. What I call this is like, what are the things that you're going to bring forward and what are the things that you want to leave behind? And typically, if you're not in a place where you want to grow, it's because you are still consumed with anger, and the energy that you could be putting into your growth, you're putting into your anger, you're putting into your ex. And so that is really hindering you to move forward, because it's almost like you're exhausted doing all these other things. So no wonder you don't have any time left at the end of the day for yourself. And so what I can tell you guys is, obviously these signs vary from person to person and not everybody exhibits all of these. However, if you are somebody who resonates with any of these signs, it really is a strong indication that you are unable to let go of your anger. And I know that you would benefit from support from somebody, whether it's me or a therapist or a counselor or a support group or your family or your friends. You get to move through this. It is a gift. It is a true, true, true gift to do the work and to see your divorce as an opportunity for growth, to see it as an opportunity for you to actually move yourself forward, to learn about yourself. If you choose to stay in the negativity, if you choose to stay in the anger, you're never going to get yourself out of that place. So instead of continuing down that negative spiral, I invite you to consider feeling through the emotions and moving through that. And I will tell you again that this event that I'm hosting for free the week of June 12th is going to address this topic. I'm going to give you guys some strategies and tips on how it is that you can move through this anger. So you're going to want to sign up. Again, you can find that information on my events on my website, wendysterling.net. I want to say thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. I always appreciate your support. Feel free to share this episode with someone who you know might benefit from this and listening to this as well. As you know, with every episode, I try to give you guys, or rather gift you, with nuggets of information to help you wherever it is that you are in your divorce process. I'm sending you so much love, light, and joy as always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.